acute scrotum is also the English word. This is acute scrotum can be different things. It can be an infection, epididymitis. It can be a torsion of the testicle, what I show you later. Mostly these are the most, or an injury or whatever, you know. And then you go Handstein colic. It's a colic from it's a stone coming from the kidney in the ureter, and it creates a lot of pain. These typical colic symptoms. Hematuria is the same in English. It's blood in the urine. Anuria is also the same. There is no urine producing from the kidney. What could be the reason? And this Stauungsniere means hydronephrosis, what I showed you, could be caused in different reasons, because of different reasons. In a lot of the cases, a compression of the ureter, or whatever, or a subvesical compression, that can cause in the hydronephrosis. And this will be, have you ever heard about this Fournier gangrene? Yes. Yes. Yeah, I will show you pictures afterwards. Urosepsis. Urosepsis is a very, very dangerous situation. It's a situation when bacteria from the kidney, because the kidney is perfused by blood every day, by 100 liters of blood every day, and these bacteria come in the whole circulation, and you can have them and really shock symptoms, which can be, if you don't treat it very, very early and very, very rapidly, can lead to death. And then penis fracture. Have you ever heard of penis fracture? Yes. Okay. Penis fracture, I show you also afterwards what could be the reason. It's can be if a penis is erected, can be a fracture. It's called a fracture, but it's not a really flat fracture. You know, usually you have the fractures from bones, but not from the penis. But it can be a fracture of the tunica of the corpora cavernosa. And then paraphimosis, if the preputium cannot be it is not possible to make a reposition of the preputium. And then this, what I talked to you, this sexual aberrations and sexual abnormalities, which are in a big city, like in Munich or in Regensburg, also in the biggest city, can happen in every night shift, and I'm sure it's the same way you can have it here in Russia or in Moscow as in Germany. Usually this emergency situation in urology, they are quite clear. You have no problem to find out what's going on, because in most of the cases it's when you ask the patients and you do a good examination, then you find out what is the reason for this. And in most of the cases, the symptoms are very similar. But sometimes it could be a difficult diagnosis, to differentiate the diagnosis. What is the, for instance, if you have an hydronephrosis on both sides, what could be the reason for that? There are different reasons, and this could be in some cases a problem. Okay, this is quite important. When you have a trauma to the kidney, you have 3 stadiums. You see that? And this is, the mechanism is in the most of the cases, a trauma to the kidneys if you get a pressure to the kidney, it can be happen in sport, in soccer, in ice hockey, it's in body checks or something like this. And mostly it happens during an accident. motorcycles or with an accident in the car. And then you have these 3 stadiums, and you have to do, in most of the cases, first of all, you have to do an ultrasound, and you see there is hematoma around the kidney. But then you don't, from the ultrasound, you cannot differentiate is it a stadium 1, 2, or 3. And you know, stadium 1, it's only a subcapsular hematoma. The capsula of the kidney is still intact. And here, the capsula, even is a laceration of the kidney, but the hematoma is not very, very big. And the bleeding stops, let's say, after 2 hours. Compression to the fat around the kidney and so on. And stadium 3 is really, you have a big laceration, you have a laceration of the pelvis and a big hematoma, and this 4 would be, you have a laceration of the arteria of the vein. Only this two stadiums, this 3 stadium, this stadium 3, you have to operate. This 1 and 2, you can wait. You don't have to operate. You have to bring the patient to the bed. He has to lay down and wait till the hematuria is gone, and this will recover without any intervention. But in these cases, you have to do an intervention. Okay. And these are the symptoms. What are the patients has a pain here on the side where the kidney is. If it has a big hematoma, you can see even a swelling of this side, you know. And but in some cases, if he has a shock symptoms and you see a big hematoma, then you have to do something. Then you have to do a surgical intervention. And this is not a laparoscopic one, this is an open surgery. And therefore, we have discussed this. You have here in your clinic a very nice simulation center, a really very well, very good one. And but if somebody wants to be a surgeon, if it is a urologic surgeon, a gynecological surgeon, or a visceral surgeon, in my opinion, if you want to be a good and a perfect laparoscopic or robotic doctor, you have to learn first open surgery, because you need that in the night time, you need that in emergency cases. And you know, this strategy with robotic systems or with laparoscopic systems is always, especially with the robotic system, is a master-slave. The robot does only this what the surgeon learns, you know, or what the surgeon does. So you have to know how to operate open, and then you can operate also as a good robotic surgeon. That is very important. So I'm completely convinced that you still have to learn open surgery, and these are situations in a rupture of the kidney. It's a lot of bleeding that you have to operate open. Then what you have to do? It's always the history of the patient. Then you have this side of the kidney which it hurts the patient, and you have an enlarged circumference of the belly, and these are all signs that you have. This is a severe injury besides the laboratory findings. You see here the kidney, here the kidney, and this is the hematoma you see already in the ultrasound. The big hematoma, but the kidney looks still quite alright. It should be here something, some more laceration. Even this one could be treated conservatively. when you see then a CAT scan with the kidney one side, and here is the kidney, and compressed by a big hematoma. This hematoma you cannot leave. So you have to remove, because it will be not reabsorbed. Such a big hematoma has to be treated open, or perhaps when you wait you can try to do it with some drainages, but in the most of the cases it does not work. Mostly you have to do an open surgery. Look at this. This was a kidney. This was a man. He was shooting. He was einschuss. This bullet travels in the kidney on this side, and this out of the kidney. You know, and you know he was bleeding quite a lot, but we could save the kidney. You could remove the bullet, and you can use it, and could. Because the vessels were not injured, so we could save the kidney. These are different injuries to the kidney. Oh, very often also with a knife injuries. Somebody hits him with a knife in the back, you know. So I told you the big hematomas or the laceration of the vessels have to be operated open, and the other ones conservative. And this is you should think about it, you should have in your mind. The less the hematuria is, and the more as a pain from the flank, and the symptoms of the shock, you know, the faster you have to do an operation and to remove this hematoma. So we come to the rupture of the bladder. This can happen with a full bladder, and this is mostly also in some accidents. A lot of the car accidents, or motorcycle, or even with a bicycle accident, can lead to a bladder rupture. And when you have a bladder rupture, you can have two mechanisms. One mechanism is here is the peritoneum. It covers the bladder. Here we see is an extraperitoneal rupture, where the blood goes around the prostate in the extraperitoneal space around the bladder. And it can be an intraperitoneal rupture. When you have an interperitoneal, then the urine and the blood goes into the peritoneum. So this rupture you have to operate for sure. And how does it feel? If you have also some, so you can see that there is a hematoma in the area of the bladder. You have an ileus, that means that you have not a normal bowel movement. You have a hematuria, you have a dysuria, and you have when he tries to void, they're coming out some blood and some blood coagulants, you know. And he can have also shock symptoms if there is a blood into the peritoneum and a lot of hematoma. And these are the pictures you can see. Here is the extraperitoneal bladder, and this is when you fill the bladder with the contrast medium. The contrast medium is here in the extraperitoneal space, and here is the intraperitoneal bladder, and the contrast medium goes into the peritoneum. This you have to operate for sure. If this is a small extravasation, you can wait with a catheter, let's say, for 8-10 days. But if it's bigger, then you also have to operate him. You have to close the bladder with sutures, you know. Okay, what is that? It's a man, so he's not pregnant. It's a disability. He's not able to empty the bladder. It can happen. You know, he had residual urine. He was waiting all the time, and then suddenly he couldn't wait any longer, and then the bladder was completely filled with urine, you know? Unbelievable. But this leads, this comes not from immediately, but it was the end stage of an so-called, in German we say Harnverhaltung. That means that he's not able to empty the blood. He always had a residual urine, and this comes more and more and more. It's like a lake or something which overflows, you know. And suddenly he cannot even empty the bladder in a small part, so it's finished. But the compliance of the bladder is after this, in most cases, is completely dead. It's, you know, the muscles are so distended that even when you treat him, it doesn't work any longer. You know? This is the same patient. And what can be the reason for this? This can be a BPH. BPH is prostatic hypertrophy. It could be an acute prostatitis. It could be a sclerosis of the bladder outlet. It could be even a phimosis. Phimosis is a narrowing of the preputium, where after it's an infection there, it's inflammation there. It can be closed also. It can be a stenosis of the meatus of the urethra. It can be valves it's mostly in younger boys, valves in the urethra. It can be a Harndranabriss. A Harndranabriss means a laceration of the urethra after trauma. You know, this is a typical trauma which happens in a special trauma which is called Malgeni fracture. Have you ever heard about this? It's a fracture of the pelvis, which happens with an accident. With an accident, bicycle accident, motorcycle accident, the urethra is just cut, you know, because the bones of the Malgeni fracture are cutting the urethra, and there is a very easy examination. You don't need first a CAT scan or MRI. And what can you do? What do you think you can see that there is a laceration or a complete dissection or the dislocation of the urethra? How can you do that? Only with your hands. What is? Please.
You can try to cut it right.
To what? You cut it right now. This impossible. Don't do that. You know, because when you do a catheterization that's obsolete, then you make a worse dislocation if it's coming. No catheterization anymore. No catheterization. Rectal examination. Rectal examination. You know, because when the urethra is cut, then the prostate goes up. You cannot palpate the prostate anymore. You know? This is very easy. You should do that, but never do a catheterization if you have the thing. You know, it's in the beginning I also said this, you know, but you should not do that because then you make the dislocation much worse, and this can happen in these cases. Okay. Then acute. This was when somebody cannot avoid anymore. You know, even in the Middle Ages, they develop when you go to a museum for medical history. You see, they have done it with some copper catheters or whatever to bring out the urine out of the bladder. In most of the cases, these people had bladder stones and everything. But when you go to the history of your family, I'm sure that some of your grandfathers were dying because of kidney disease. So it was most of the cases were a subvesical obstruction by prostatadenoma or bladder stones or whatever. It was a very frequent disease in the Middle Ages and was frequent death for male patients. Okay, and then there's the acute scrotum. It's a trauma of the testicle. It's this torsion of the testicle, is epididymitis. It is a hydatidintorsion. You don't, if you are not a urologist, you don't have to think about this. It's a little congenital appendices on the prostate, on the testicle, which can be also torquated. But the orchitis is an infected inflammation of the testicle. What is a typical orchitis? Do you know this? What is a side effect of an infection which is in the face? I don't know the English word. Where you get an inflammation of this glandula here. You are a good English. Mumps, in German it's mumps. What? Parasite. Parasite. Yeah. It can also affect the testicle of the parenchyma. And there's a vasculitis, and it's a tumor of the testicle. And this, this is, you should think about this. This is a prevesical stone of the ureter. If a stone is in front of the bladder, the pain can transform to the testicle, and then patients are also have pain on this side in the testis of the side where the stone is. So this, you see this completely black testicle. This is an acute scrotum, is a torsion of the testicle. And this can happen, you know, when you go to the embryology, the testes are in the embryonal stage, in the embryonal stage, the testes are gone where the kidneys are. The kidneys wandering upwards, and the testes wandering downstairs. So that is the reason some young boys, or you can find also in young babies, in male babies, that one testis is not going completely down to the scrotum. So they have what we call a pendular testicle or a loin testicular, and these testicles, which are not in the first months, not wandering completely down to the scrotum, they are very mobile. And that can happen. Then, for instance, it's funny, sometimes, very often during the nighttime, the boy or the young boy, mostly they are young men, they are losing the blanket, and then they have this cremaster reflex. The reflex of the cremaster is the muscle of the scrotum, and then the testicle is turning. And then it turns, blood still goes in, but the vein, the wall of the vein is torqued, and so you have a so-called an hemorrhagic infarction of the testicle. And you see here, it goes completely black. And if you don't operate this in 6 hours, the testicle, the function of the testicle is gone forever. This is a real emergency case. You have to do this immediately. It's a torsion of the testicle. And if you are not sure, you should always open the scrotum and look, is it a testicle or is it an infection or whatever. Usually you can find it out, or an experienced urologist can differentiate it, but this can be in a lot of cases of younger urologists who are not so experienced, they have the problem to differentiate it. This is German. If the Hoden eine Qual drehner lateral, you can, the torsion always goes medial, inside. So you can make a detorquation, you can retorque the testis lateral. But this is only theory, because he has so much pain. He never lets you to do this, you know. You have to open it up. That is not possible. Okay. Then, this is what I already told you. If you have a doubt, you always have to do an operation and look, is there a torsion or not? Because if you don't do that, the testis is gone forever. And then there are very seldom ones with the infarction of the arteria in the testis. If a vasculitis, it could be a first manifestation of the purpura Schönlein-Henner. It's a very seldom of the skin, you know. It could be also affects the testis, and you know, a tumor of the testis. You can palpate that it's a very hard spot in the testis. Tumor you always can palpate very easily. Mostly the men notice it during the shower or when they are in the bathroom or whatever. Okay, then the urosepsis, we already talked about this. Urosepsis means the invasion of bacteria and endotoxins in the whole body. Mostly are gram-negative bacteria, mostly Escherichia coli, and it's mostly committed, it's mostly associated with a hydronephrosis, with an infected hydronephrosis. And what have you to do? You have to immediately to release the hydronephrosis. This is today is very easy. You can puncture the kidney under ultrasonic guidance and put in a small, what you've seen, I've seen already before, a small tube inside to let out this infected urine, because when you don't do this and you give them only antibiotics, the focus of the bacteria, the focus of the infection is still there. You have to do, first of all, to puncture the hydronephrotic pelvis. Okay, this is what I told you. If you don't do this, perhaps it is interesting, because if you don't do this, the lethality says that people, 50% of these people who have this are dying if you don't react very quickly. Okay, this is a different. Now, do you know what is priapism? Do you know what is priapism? Priapism is a constant erectile erection of the penis. It can be different reasons. It can be idiopathic, neurologically. It can be also caused by some medicines, some drugs, cocaine, or some other drugs can cause this. SCAT is a method for patients, especially after radical prostatectomy. They can inject into the corpora cavernosa some prostaglandin to get an erection. It is possible, it is usually used, and if they do that too much or too often, then they can also get a priapism. And you know, this alcohol, marijuana, cocaine. But what is important, you have to differentiate between a low flow type. It's an obstruction of the vein, and it's a high flow type. It's a high arterial perfusion. That is mostly after, for instance, a straddle trauma. If somebody straddle trauma means somebody goes, for instance, with a bike, he falls on a male bike on the bike, and it goes in the perineum, you know, and then it can happen that there is a shunt between an arteria and a vein, and this can cause in a so-called high flow type priapism. And what can you do? You can try with a local application of alpha mimetica, for instance, ethylenephrine, or a local compression. But in a lot of the cases, mostly in the low-flow priapism, it doesn't work. So you have to do something very, very cruel. You have to puncture the penis, make a hole between the corpora cavernosa and the corpora of the urethra, because they are not infected. So the blood can go out from here, from the corpora cavernosa, which are blocked into the corpora of the urethra. But this reacts in you make a shunt. If there's a shunt, what you create with this true cut needle, but if you don't close it later, this hole, the patient will be impotent. He will never have an erection afterwards. Then we come to this famous Fournier gangrene. The name comes from a French doctor, Fournier, who described this at first. It's a special form of a necrotic fasciitis, mostly of the area of the anogenital region. It's mostly affected men. See men 10 times more than women, and it's a very, very rapidly aggressive infection of the whole fascia around this anogenital area. And if you don't do that, because it's mostly immunologically affected, the patient with an immunological deficiency, they have this Fournier gangrene. If you don't do that, really 67% of these patients are dying. And if you don't, the only way is to do a complete radical operation, and you will see that afterwards. The symptomatic is septic, it's a septicemia, what they get, and it starts quite slowly, but when it has a special stage, then it goes rapidly. You see that? It's the whole area. It's completely black. It's infection everywhere. You have to look at this. Unbelievable. Now what you have to do? Look at this. It looks different here. Everything. You have to cut off everything, and you have to do it radically. You will see that now. This is again a picture. So it's the immediate surgical radical intervention. Look at this. Is it dark enough? The light? Can you see that? Okay. Then see that. That's what you have to do. Only the testicles, the penis, everything, the whole skin, the whole fascia are removed. This is the state. Then we have to do this, to repair this with a plastic surgeon, and afterwards it looks, I'm very sorry I don't have the picture, afterwards it looks quite normal. This is a paraphimosis. It can happen very often. That's prepucium is too narrow, and you cannot do a reposition, and then you have to do a little cut here and sew on, and to make a reposition is a so-called mechanism where you put on a bell, you know, on a house bell like this, the penis, and bring it back, you know. It hurts, but that can be a conservative treatment if it's not too far, you know. But this can happen very often in every night shift. Yeah. Now we come to this special pictures I was talking about. This is a very bad zipper accident, you know, and we really had to cut off some of the prepucium. You know? This we could not remove that. No? Then it was the situation afterwards. but he must be very, must be not very manual, tricky. This guy who has done this. Then, you know, we come, we see that there's an explanation that all these pictures I show you now, they can we will see in a big clinic, not so seldom. This is a penis fracture. You see this here? This penis is completely blue because the reason is that there is a fracture here, the corpora cavernosa, and the blood got out. There was a laceration of the corpora cavernosa, of the tunica albuginea, because they made something wrong. The penis was just deviated. This is the reason for it. The penis fracture can happen. You have to operate this. You have to close this surgically. So you see that this is a picture of this. This is the corpora cavernosa, and you see here, so, and the blood which comes out, and you have to repair this. Okay. This was a guy who cut his penis because he had religious craziness. He wrote in the Bible that if something is wrong on your body, cut it off. And he was during the night time he took a knife and he cut his penis off. Unbelievable. And our plastic surgeon, together with us, we could repair it. You know, the erection was gone, but he could repair the urethra and the corpora cavernosa, and he could still use the penis as an urinating organ because it did not injure the sphincter, because the sphincter is inside. You know? Then people, what they're doing inside the urethra. He put this inside the urethra, completely crazy. We had a guy, he put always, it's a material which you put in a window to close, to fix the glass of the window, you know. Multifill, what is it called in German, multifill. He always put it in his urethra. And he did it not once, he did it 3 or 4 times. Then we also had to bring it out because it was hard. And it was for hours to work on this crazy guy, you know. And then we put him in the psychiatry, you know. I don't know what happens after him, but he did it. I don't know why. Okay, this is it's in every urological book because there was a vacuum cleaner which was called Cobalt, was quite famous, and some of these guys, they made a masturbation with the vacuum cleaners, and the vacuum cleaner had some ventilation there, and then they injured the penis because now it was so quite often that this company changed the system, you know. This was what these guys are doing. There were a lot of jokes also in medical journals about this. And this now, some of these people say alternative support for erections. This crazy guy took I don't know the English word for some cuff, you know, over it, and it was swelling, and it was not, he could not take it out, we had to break it off. And you see that, what he has done. This was not done by a urologist, this was done by our housekeeping, you know. And this is very similar, the same, we have to do that with our house worker, you know. Next one, you know, it's incredible. But, you know, it was not done with a medical device, it was done with something from our housekeeping, you know. You know, it was with with a Black & Decker. we had to remove this. And this was afterwards, you know. And I just want to show you some of these aberrations and these abnormalities. This, if you say it's completely crazy, it is craziness, but it's not so seldom. During in a big clinic, it will happen several times. It's not so seldom. Okay. Thank you very much. This was a little bit